Okay, let's get started. All right, y'all ready? I know we have like a small group in the room tonight, but we are live streaming and then we're also recording the meeting. So we will absolutely talk to all of you because you came, and I hope you have lots of good questions, because we want to make sure time at the end for questions. But we also just want everybody to know that we are recording. So that we can put this on the website and have information available for parents and families and community members. So we're going to start with some introductions and we'll get into the work. My name is Anna Cole. I'm superintendent at Roaring Fork Schools. We have a big team here tonight. Our focus is on school safety. We don't do any of this alone. And so we wanted to make sure that our district leaders who work on different components of school safety are here, that our partners from law enforcement who are essential in all of our towns and communities are here to talk about what we're doing well, where we can get better. And we have a lot to go through tonight. So want to start just with some introductions really quickly, and I'm just going to have everybody introduce themselves. And if you all would introduce your teams as well as for some of the other folks that are here would be great. So let's do introductions starting with Christine. How about name, role, and community that you serve?
Okay. Yeah. My name is Cristina Vargas Reynolds, and I am the bilingual communications specialist for the Roaring Fork School District, and I serve all 14 schools for the district.
I'm Kelly Medina, Director for Student and Family Services, and I get to support the Family Resource Center, the school nurses, and our school counselors.
Joel Hathaway. I'm the Executive Director of Schools for Roaring Fork School District. I primarily support our elementary and middle schools, and I support all of our schools, including the high schools, in issues of school culture and student behavior.
I'm Dustin Garing. I'm the School Safety and Security Coordinator, and I serve district-wide.
And I'm Chris Dietrich, and I'm with the Glenwood Springs Police Department, lieutenant down there.
Good evening, Kirk Wilson. I'm the Chief of Police here in Carbondale, and with me tonight I have our School Resource Officer, Arthur Fields.
Aaron Munch with the Basalt Police Department, and with me is our School Resource Officer, Jason Hegberg.
Great, thanks. So we will tonight talk through all sorts of safety components, but really where we want to start is with our strategic plan. So in the year 24-25, last year, we launched a new 5-year strategic plan. It's on our website. You can learn all about it. And for those of you in the room, you can see our strategic plan is posted all over the district. And the very first priority that we've identified to meet our goals of ensuring that all students thrive and that we can start to make sure that all students are achieving academically and that we can start closing some of our gaps with student subgroups. Our first priority is to make sure that we have students first and students at the center. And what we're really trying to lead with is making sure that students feel safe, included, and a sense of belonging at school. Because we know that when kids feel that way, then they can learn and they can push themselves. But safety is our first priority, and it's part of our strategic plan. It's part of everything we do. Tonight, the goal is so that family and community members can learn more about the systemic way we think about school safety and how we approach it, how we work with partners to do this work. And also to answer your questions for folks who are here about what we're doing in terms of school safety. And I would say one of the things to pay attention to as you hear from our speakers tonight is that, our number one task is to really educate children, and safety obviously has to be in place for that to work. And one of the themes you'll hear tonight is that the best tool we have to keep kids safe is relationships. And so where we really believe that we can do the best work is by really knowing our students, knowing our families, so that kids come to us when they feel unsafe, if they're worried about something, so that we can tell when they're feeling off or dysregulated. You're going to hear again and again our presenters talk about our superpower is relationships. That's what we do best. We have to partner on other things because we are not experts on school safety systems and protocols. And so we have to lean on partnerships to do that. but relationships are really the heart of what we do. And it's always what we're going to lean into in terms of what we invest in. Those making sure that every kid feels seen and supported and has a trusted adult in the building is probably the best thing we can do to keep our kids and community safe. So pay attention to that as we hear folks talk. Let me give you a quick preview of what we're going to see tonight. So we're going to hear about kind of safety and security writ large from Dustin Gehring, our safety and security coordinator. You're going to hear about the kind of supports we have in our schools that we invest in systemically to make sure all our schools have. You'll hear about community supports and partnerships. You'll hear about some of the things that we feel like we need to do better and are working on. And then you're going to hear from our police departments from Glenwood and Basalt and Carbondale from their perspective of what we're doing well, where we need to get better, because they're really essential partners in this work. Sound good? Okay, well, let's jump in. I think Dustin's going to kick us off.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming. The first thing I want to start off with is our 5 pillars of safety. This is one thing that we came up with a few years ago, and really what it does is help us focus our efforts in certain areas so we can also identify where we do well and where we need to get better. We are going to go through prevention, mitigation, protection, response, and recovery. I'm going to do a really broad overview of just some of the things that we do that fit into these categories. I do encourage you all to go to our website under the safety tab, and the 5 pillars is there, and you'll see a much better, much more in-depth explanation of things that are there on the website, and you can see how some things will overlap in different categories, and that'll be a good resource for you as well. On our school website under the safety tab, we also have some other information. You'll get to see our SROs on there, and we also have some gun violence prevention stuff that we're required to let you guys know about, so you can get all that information on our website there if you so choose. That's good. The first thing that's really important for us that we look at is training, and we do an enormous amount of training throughout the year, and especially at the beginning of the year. We train all of our staff on mostly all of our protocols and procedures, whether that's anywhere from drills to reunification to protocols at the front desk, anything that we can do to stay safe. We continue to do that, and we continue to do that with our partners in public safety as well. We train staff, and sometimes we also get down to the student level to train them by request of the administrator. So we're constantly training, and we're trying to always keep up with best practices. And so we're always trying to refine that training as well as we go along. And of course, here in the Valley, we know that, people come and go. So we always have new employees and new people come in. So we try to train them as well and keep them up to date as much as we can. Pretty proud to say this year, by the end of this year, we will have every employee group trained all the way down to cooks and custodians and everybody else on our standard of response protocol. I think our last group is coming up to train in just a couple of weeks. And so we'll have everybody touched on as far as staff, so they're all familiar with that. That kind of wraps into a second bullet point there, drills. Drills are a major part of what staff and administrators do at the building level, and they also partner with our public safety. Last year, we were right around district-wide, about 175 drills for a year. So it's a lot. That includes our evacuation, lockdown, secure, hold, and shelter-in-place drills. Every school participates in those, staff and students, and we try to keep that up and keep going. And the major part of drills is we can train you and tell you what to do, but when we do a drill, we want to see you do it. We want to see you put it in practice and get that muscle memory. So when the alarm goes off, you're not thinking. Thinking takes time, and you just react. And that's what we want to get to. So we continue to drill and drill and drill and drill. Second part of that is reunification. The reunification process that we had a few years ago was quite cumbersome and long. It was about 13 binders deep. It was pretty deep. So we went through and refined that process. We've got it down to 1 binder now, so it's a pretty efficient system. And one thing we wanted to do also is take that burden off the buildings. So if there is a reason to evacuate a building, the building doesn't have to worry about anything but getting to the location, and the staff here at the district office will take over and conduct the reunification. And part of that, we've been training that, and we've identified our locations around the district, and we've been able to train at those locations. And it's been really great for us, and people are getting into it, and here again, getting that muscle memory. So if something does happen, we can react and we don't have to think about it too much, and it's as efficient as possible for you guys. Facilities. One of the things that we have in our facilities, that we have secure or semi-secure vestibules. To be honest, I wish they were a little more secure, but they are as secure as they are right now. And we've also incorporated sign in, sign out. If you've gone to our high schools recently, you will see that there is now a digital sign in, sign out using the program securely. That also helps us going back to reunification for accountability, because when we leave the building, if we have to evacuate, we can just take the iPad, or we can access by an app to see who's in our building and who we should be accounting for as far as visitors. So our vestibules are really becoming more and more tightened down. Locked exterior doors, that's one of our policies, is all doors during the day are locked except for our main front door, and then you'd have to enter through our secure vestibule. There are times where teachers will prop a door open occasionally, just because it's easier if they're going in and out. We try to discourage that, and when we see it, we train them up, we kind of remediate and train them up that that's not something we do. And then the final thing there on facilities is assessments. We do assessments every other year. We do those site assessments to kind of give us a score to see where our facilities are doing well and where they need help. And that also helps us guide our efforts going into the next year. We do those every other year, so it gives us time to assess the site and then give us time to make the improvements and hopefully see the improvements on the following assessment. We're going to be doing those assessments again this year in the spring. So we should be able to see how we've improved from 2 years ago to where we are now. And hopefully we'll see some improvement. I almost guarantee we will. And then the plans, like I said before, with reunification, and it kind of ties in with our crisis plan. Our crisis plan is kind of like the master document, and it has all of our procedures and protocols for any instance that may come up, and reunification is part of that. And our crisis plan is very deep and long, and we try to train all of our admins, and they have access to it so they can see the crisis plan and know what to do when something comes up. They know how to react to it and who to contact to get the ball rolling to initiate our response. And for communications, I'm going to pass the mic to Christina. She is our communications director.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a little bit of how we communicate throughout the district and when we decide to communicate an emergency situation. There are different levels of crisis, and you will see over here, and you should have seen it everywhere, that we have 5 different ones. It's called hold, secure, lockdown, evacuation, and shelter. The first 3 are pretty, I will go in between how serious it is. The hold is pretty much just kids being held in their classrooms because something happened in the hallway. There is no danger. You will be seeing this most likely teachers and in general. You will see that the principal might contact you at the end of the day just to let you know, hey, there's something happened, but don't worry, kids are safe, are okay. Whenever secure happens, you will see that it might be, depending on the severity of secure, you will see that the school principal will text you or email you letting you know something occurred. This happens if, let's say, a bear is outside, there's a mountain lion next to, like trash can or anything like that, or it could be a potentially serious, moment for the schools. Once it comes down to lockdown, the district will take and make the decision that we have to close down a school. And that is when we, as a district, will notify parents of when a decision is made of having to send out a district-wide decision. When it comes to evacuation and shelter, we are going to see that this is very targeted to school and to parents. This will only be notified to parents directly, only for whatever is happening and at the time. There are different channels that we use. For the first three, we use Infinite Campus or Remind. If you don't know those, you need to make sure that you differentiate the parent portal, which is Infinite Campus, and Remind, which is the app. We use Remind to communicate with parents because of it's easy to translate. And Infinite Campus is our parent portal, which we will communicate with you depending on severity and in general, if, they are going to be communicating parents, at the district or at the school level. Whenever it comes down to lockdown, evacuation, or shelter, we'll be communicating through the parent portal. So it would really be important that you set up your preferences on how to receive messages for communications. And if you are wondering how to do that, you must call your school or call me at the district office, and we can try to figure it out on how to get your preferences correctly. That will be it.
So Dustin and Christina talking about school safety. In my mind, I kind of put a big S on school safety, like a capital S school safety. When I think about our crisis response protocols, the drills that we practice, our secure entries. These are the ways that we keep our students safe when there are unforeseen emergency circumstances. And what I want to talk about this evening is about the proactive, preventive things that we do in schools to keep our schools safe. So it's almost more of like a small s school safety, except most experts agree that one of the most important aspects and keys to school safety is that we create school environments where our students feel like they belong, where our students have trusted adults, where our students know where to go for help. If they see something off, if they feel something's off, they know who to talk to. So that comes into play when you talk about school culture. And this slide, which it's hard for you to read if you're in the room, but it talks about what does school culture mean. In the middle, it talks about this proactive approach to school safety. And to echo what Dr. Cole said earlier, it's about this idea that relationships are our superpower. We want to be sure that our adults in our buildings have strong relationships with students and set up an atmosphere that cultivates and fosters important and positive relationships between our students as well. So culture, when it works well, and I guess here's the thing about school culture. Every school, every organization, every family has a culture. A culture is there whether or not you're working on it and cultivating it. So a positive school culture is something that you have to work towards. A school culture is just always there. But a positive school culture is one that you work towards. And how do you get it? We take these steps, and a lot of this work comes from our school leaders and our teachers and our deans of culture, which we find in our secondary schools and one elementary school. And so these are things like how we celebrate achievements and what achievements we choose to celebrate, what we value, how we express those values, our beliefs about ourselves, the way that we honor our traditions and rituals and customs. Importantly, how we listen to each other in the words that we use, how we support each other, what we expect from each other. So all of these things, it's just kind of rolls into, you could say, how we roll. It just becomes how you operate as a school. And we want our school cultures to be places that are safe and that are full of joy, and where we're always working to improve. Horrible with the clicker. Okay, I want to talk just very briefly because I want to make sure we have plenty of time. I want to talk about a couple of the systems that we have in place and some of the protocols that we have in place that are standardized that have to do with school culture. One of them is called the Roaring Fork Schools Disciplinary Matrix, and there is a version of it that is found on our website under families. Do you remember, Kelly, exactly where it is? I can think of it in my mind. It's under families and then school supports. The disciplinary matrix is a tool that is meant to guarantee a predictable, progressive, uniform guide to responding to challenging and dangerous behaviors that supports objectivity and consistency and a safe environment. So we want to have our school leaders a tool that when something happens in schools with student behavior, they know what to do, and it's the same no matter what school your child is in, from Basalt to Carbondale to Glenwood, from elementary all the way up to high school. It's a consistent approach, which also helps us protect ourselves from our own bias, because we know that when things happen, we have a tool. The matrix also comes with a communication protocol when things are really tricky and confusing, like they can get. The school leaders and I chat. They call me and I'm always available to talk, and we talk things through and we consult this matrix and we bring in a team if we need to. But we are sure that we are doing our absolute best in the situation to support students and to keep our schools safe. How to measure progress. Dr. Cole again was talking in the beginning about students first in the strategic plan, and we have several measures. And the examples here are actually a little bit old because the data dashboard on our website is always being updated. So to get fresh live versions of this data, you can go to our website and look up the data dashboard on the strategic plan. We monitor by keeping track of our in-school suspension rate, our out-of-school suspension rate. We look at it by all of our students and by various ethnicities and different categories. And we also look at dropout rates, the sense of belonging from Healthy Kids surveys and Panorama surveys, and things like student participation that also come from Healthy Kids survey. So we have quite a few measures to see the progress that we're making or not. Two other things worth mentioning. One of them is Safe to Tell. Safe to Tell is Colorado-wide. You will see it on our website and on every school's website. And if you walk into any of our schools, you will see posters that are pretty much plastered all over the place that include a website and a telephone number. Our students know that when they see something that feels off or that they want to report, this is an anonymous way to report. These reports go directly to school leaders. It goes to district leaders. And I can say that we range maybe about 150 of those reports a year. Everything from bullying issues to substance issues. Often we get reports about things that aren't happening in schools. Like kids will be like, there was a big party in Carbondale this weekend, and it goes straight to the police officers as well, to law enforcement in all the communities. So we respond. And I'm proud to say that we respond to every single report, generally within just like as quick as possible, within a day or two. But every report gets response. Our students know how to use it. They use it well. Lightspeed is a system that's designed to monitor the student use of technology when they're using our devices in our networks. And this is a system that flags our school leaders and some district leaders about threats to safety, so that we know when students are a threat to themselves and others, if that sort of thing is being talked about through email or other uses of our technology, and we can respond to it. We can have counselors talk to kids about what's going on. A couple other key safety protocols to just mention. We have a crisis response protocol. If we have used this when there have been like swatting incidents, I don't know if you remember, like last year or maybe a year before, there was several incidents in a row where people were making these calls all across America that were phony threats to school safety, but you want to take every threat seriously. So we would get together a team, even if it was early in the morning, and talk through the protocols for what happened. We'd also do this if there's like, it could be like deaths of a student or a staff member. It's things that we get together and talk about, so we can talk about how to communicate with it, how to be sure that our staff and our students are supported with what they need. We have a very tight threat assessment protocol that all of our school leaders and mental health professionals in our school counselors are well trained in. When a student makes a threat to self or others, we have screener questions. And then if the screener questions turn out a certain way, we involve Hope Center very quickly, and they are great partners that come on site and help us with that. Suicide assessments work the same exact way. Our schools are getting better and better all the time at behavior support plans, behavior intervention plans, functional behavior assessments. So we're keeping an eye on things and the behaviors and the words that we need to keep track of in order to keep our schools safe. Again, it's like small s safety, not big S safety, but it's actually those proactive measures that count a lot, that mean a lot. All of these protocols are in our safety handbooks, which Dustin and I work on pretty constantly, and they're reviewed with school leaders routinely. So we make sure that folks are trained up and know how to use the tools. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks you all for listening. And here is Kelly.
So part of the roles of our K-12 school counselors is to provide opportunities for our students to increase their skills in social emotional learning. And really what that means is how can students, while they're in the Roaring Fork School District, become regulated adults that can problem solve and also keep good relationships with their friends and with their family. So it's the CASEL framework, and so the acronym going to take time, but I can share the link later. But really, the CASEL framework helps us with these 5 skills that you see here. And so our school counselors use our second step curriculum, and based on conversations that they have with parents, and based on some of the schools that are using a BAS screening this year, they get to see where students might need support in increasing those skills, and then they can use second step curriculum, which are lessons to help the students learn how to be a good friend, how to have a hard conversation, or how to then talk to their parents about certain topics. So that's second steps, our curriculum that really helps elevate those skills for our students. And another curriculum that we use for sexual health or reproductive health is our 3 R's curriculum. That also feeds into our social emotional, because we teach students about respectful relationships and consent, and how to consent in a relationship, whether it's just, to hang out or, talk to each other. We really want our students to have that information available, and for them to practice that they have autonomy over their body and how to make those choices, and also who their trusted adults are in order to be able to seek help. So these are the 2 curriculums that we're using right now that were approved and adopted by the Board of Education a couple of years. And then we have supplemental curriculum that we can use for health lessons too if needed, but really 3 R's and then second step are the core ones that really we utilize throughout the day. One thing you'll notice is that we have a gap in some of the comprehensive skills that Colorado wants districts to focus on. And you can see that for healthy eating, substance use, health promotion, and safety and injury, for students at least to have an actual curriculum, we have a gap in there. And so, yes, we can still use our K-12 counselors as the experts to kind of do supplemental lessons, but we don't have a formalized curriculum that's been adopted. This little squiggly thing is really hard to use. Um, the other piece that I wanted to highlight was our community partnerships. And a lot of these are the ones that help us respond when we're in crisis or we're trying to provide wraparound supports for our students, whether they're being assessed for a threat assessment, a suicide assessment, or whether they're coming back into the community, either they're youth involved in the justice system or they're kids that are integrating back from hospitalization. And I wanted to be really specific about the different types of groups of students that we're really supporting because these partners really try to help us with creating plans of care. So one of the partnerships that we have that's core to our mission is our Family Resource Center. They're a core program. And so we have the ability to have bilingual family liaisons in each one of the traditional Roaring Fork schools. And so they're there throughout the entire school week. And so they have the ability to meet with parents and then support them with plans to meet their needs, whether it's basic needs such as housing, food security, or mental health access, like getting enrolled into Mountain Family for a primary care provider or getting access to an Aspen Hope Center clinician or other partners in the community. So they're part of the core, they're kind of the navigators, they're the access point. And then we work really closely with the Aspen Hope Center when it comes to crisis response and also providing short-term therapy within the schools. So that way it's a no barrier to students for access and for costs. And then another partner that we work with is Pathfinders, and their focus is working with students who have experienced grief or loss. And so they can provide support within the schools. Sometimes they'll partner with our school counselors on groups for grief, but usually they're providing one-on-one therapy. And then another partner that we have is our school-based health center. Mountain Family operates those, and currently, we have 2 health centers, one at Glenwood Springs High School and the other one at Roaring Fork. And they're there throughout the school day as well, and they are able to work with us on a sliding scale, or they help families also move into Medicaid or other public health, public assistance benefits to lower the cost. And then Youth Zone works with our youth that are involved in the juvenile justice system. And so they're working with youth that are in diversion. They also offer substance use classes and other types of classes to prevent reoffenders. And what we see is we try to have a close collaboration with our SROs in the schools. And so through that discipline matrix that Joel and Dustin were speaking about earlier, if we have a student exhibiting signs that they're using substance abuse or that they may be at risk to be involved with the court system, our SROs are partners in that too for prevention to help them get access to youth zone even through tickets or just through conversations, but also the school leaders are a part of that too with the teams. This is just a small list. We have partnerships in the district that also work in different areas, but when we're talking about mental health, behavioral health, and substance use, these are the partners that we look to when we're trying to wrap around supports for students. Another strategy that we use is safety plans or reentry plans. And the reason for that is when we have students that are hospitalized or they're coming out of detention, we really want to know how to best support them before we throw them back into the classroom. One, because we don't want to re-traumatize them. 2, we want to make sure that if there's victims involved, that we know ahead of time and that we can make a support plan in place so that they're getting access to mental health or that they're continuing their probation visits. And that one can be hard sometimes because there's a lot of people involved. But the reason why we have those safety plans and those reentry meetings is so that way we can be more proactive and get a plan in place, and that way we're not reacting when something comes up, or that we're getting adequate information to make sure that that student's integration back to school is successful and that they have a better chance at succeeding. And some of the people that will be at those, as you can see, are most of the time our principals, our school counselors, our family liaisons, and our mental health providers, and sometimes our special education team if the student has an IEP. We want to make sure that we have a pretty big group there so that way we can make sure that we have the right information and we can respond adequately. And I'll just leave that slide there for one more minute. And give it back to Dustin.
Yeah, just to kind of give current status of where we are with SROs in the district. Currently, we have 2 SROs, which are here with us today. Arthur here on the left and Jason. Arthur manages all of our Carbondale schools, and Jason does all of our Basalt schools. Currently, we do not have a solid SRO or a consistent SRO in Glenwood Springs. However, we maintain a very close relationship with Glenwood Springs Police Department. They've been nothing but responsive. We have direct lines to, and Hassel next up and Darius all the way up to the top. So we maintain a really great relationship still with them, and we hope to improve to the point or get staffing levels to a point where we can get an SRO back, but we're not quite there yet. Is that it?
We had one, we might have missed a slide. I was going to name a couple of areas. I mean, that's a lot, right? Of everything we just went through. There's a couple things that we didn't talk about that are areas that I think still feel like sticky spots for us as a district, where we don't feel like we are aligned to best practices. Or we don't feel like we've really caught up and created the safest environments that we want, and that are works in progress. And I would say specifically those 2, the ones that really lift up for us, are around vaping in schools. That one, the kids are 2 steps ahead of us on this. Kids have, I mean, and we can hear from law enforcement more about concerns around vaping. It's a concern that we all share together. We're concerned about kids' access. We're concerned about use. We're concerned about vapes being in the schools, and are doing a lot of work in different ways to try to understand that and stay ahead of it in terms of prevention, education, and partnerships and communication. And we know we've still got a long way to go on that before we can really be sure that we're doing all the right things. Additionally, and I know our law enforcement partners will talk about this, one of our biggest vulnerabilities for student safety, from everything from like trusted relationships to traffic, to access to buildings, to knowing where kids are, a lot of our goals are compromised with our high school open campuses. So all of our high school campuses are open for kids at lunch. We have a long culture of that in the Roaring Fork schools. Our schools were not built to have cafeterias that can house all of our kids at once. So there's some structural challenges. We have cultural challenges when this idea comes up. I'm sure you can imagine a lot of students don't like to talk about closing a high school campus where they wouldn't get to leave during the day, but it is a sticky spot that still feels like we're not adhering to all the best practices when it comes to keeping our schools safe with those open high school campuses. We need more conversation about that. We need more discussion, and we probably need more political will from our community, our parents, and our schools. And then I would say the other piece that is also sticky, and we're tackling this a lot this year, as has been a priority, is to really have, we do not have district policy on cell phone use on campuses. And what we see right now is kindergarten through 8th grade, elementary, middle schools have bans, complete bans at school. Kids aren't allowed to have cell phones. There's different rules at our high schools. And so we have an obligation this year because of the state legislature to get a policy on the books with cell phones. So we have our equity advisory councils working on that now. They're doing the first draft. That's a team of parents and students who work very closely with policy. Many of the folks in this room have been part of that cell phone work. That will, once the Equity Advisory Council is finished with that first draft, it'll start going to leadership teams. Our Family Advisory Council will take a look at it at their next meeting. For additional input, we'll bring it to the board when it'll be open for community input in April. So we also see that as a safety concern. So those are some of the efforts that are kind of top of our list right now that still feel sticky. You heard from us about all the things we are working on and are really grateful. You heard many of our teams mention our partnerships with local law enforcement. We feel really privileged for the leaders that we have in our towns and communities here in terms of law enforcement. Our goals are very similar in building relationships, making sure families and kids have access to resource, working in teams, and we can't imagine stronger partners. And so really want to have some time for our law enforcement leaders from each town to really talk about the things that they see that we're doing well and the areas that they worry about where we can do better. I think it's helpful for us to get that critical feedback because we really feel like keeping our kids safe is a community effort and we all need to be working together. Y'all ready? Let's start in Glenwood. Perfect.
All right, I'll speak strictly about our schools in Glenwood Springs and kind of the partnerships. And like Dr. Cole said, there are several concerns that are out there, but a lot of the positives that we've gotten within our community is we do have a very tight relationship with the schools. And we don't currently have an SRO within the Glenwood Springs schools, but we've got direct lines to just about all the admin staff in the schools. Our department, we've got officers out in the mornings at just about every school. And, like Dustin was talking about with the safety protocols, we are very active in that within our department. We have, whether it's myself, our deputy chief, some of the officers, will have someone at just about every drill that happens in the schools. We push into the classrooms occasionally with some of the discussions with some of the teachers. We have a very good relationship there when it comes to that. Obviously, concerns within the district, and again, it's a concern that's being addressed. Vaping is a major issue within schools. It has been for many years. Cell phones is a big concern, which I'm glad to hear that they're definitely working towards that, because nationwide there's a lot of legislative change coming up. There's it's a ton of cyberbullying, different things of that nature. Inappropriate behavior on the phones is obviously a concern that's got to be addressed. But another good thing, the Safe to Tell program has been a great program since it's been introduced. And we do get those reports at the department as well as the schools getting them. So usually as soon as we get them, we'll call the school, partner up with them on, is it just strictly a school issue? Is this something we need to be involved with? If it's at night, with a mental health issue, we'll respond to those calls as well. And then probably another one, just from a safety protocol, the open campus is definitely a concern. It's a vulnerability that the schools have with the open doors, kids going in and out. It makes it an easy access during the day. So again, it's a cultural thing. It's been in the Valley forever, the open campuses. But it is a concern that is out there as far as from a safety standpoint, because kids going in and out all day long through the schools just gives easy access, for potential threats and all that. So definitely something we're working towards. So we'll move on to the next.
Dr. Cole, thank you for having me here and our school resource officer, Arthur Fields, here. And thank you for coming out. This is truly important information that we're sharing, we're talking about, and we're certainly here for you as families. We're here for students. We're here for faculty. We're here for the community in general. I brought 4 pages of notes. I'm not going to go through them all. But some of the things as far as like the police department, our police department, what we're doing to support school safety in Carbondale. One thing is supporting the district's leadership, right? Our role with the Carbondale Police Department and the rest of my professional law enforcement officers up here, we're not here to take over when it comes to school safety. We will work hand in hand with the school district on their programs, right? They take the lead, they use us, they consult with us. We have different priorities, right? So the school district's priority is to educate. Our priorities are very different in public safety. And so having the relationships that we do to be able to share different insights and different input, that's fantastic. And I will say most regions, most school districts don't have these kind of close-knit relationships where school districts and law enforcement agencies work hand in hand together to problem solve. There's a lot of prevention and preparedness that goes on, and that could not have happened, wouldn't have happened up until the point that Dustin came on board. So having a true school safety coordinator such as Dustin and a professional one. He has an incredible background. He has incredible insight. So he's worked in law enforcement. He's been an educator. He's worked for state government, coordinating all of those things. We're incredibly lucky to have him. And I will say that before that, we didn't have such a person. That direct contact was usually with the superintendent or with principals directly. Dustin has done a tremendous amount of work to spread this district wide. Whatever the safety policies are that are discussed at the district level, those are going out to all of our schools. It's hard to live in the school district. It's hard to keep employees, and sometimes employees bounce from school to school. But from going from one school to another, the system that is in place, the school safety system that RE1 school district has, is similar or the same throughout, which is huge. And I am very thankful that the school district values Dustin. I'd like to see his position multiply, right, and make it a school level thing. But obviously that takes money. So the school resource officer program is another support that we offer here. My wife is an educator. I have a child in middle school that's middle school age, and I take this stuff very seriously, personally and professionally. And so having a school resource officer in place, making the relationships with faculty, families, and students is crucial. Not only is Safe2Tell part of that, but sometimes kids don't want to share information on Safe2Tell, but when they have a trusted adult, such as Arthur and Jason and school resource officers throughout the area, that makes a difference. It makes a difference when they have teachers that they trust. So having that trusted adult to just bounce ideas off of or talk about relationship issues or whatever it is, these guys are trained not just to be law enforcement officers, but they're trained to think about their roles more on the educational level. Deterrence, right? The school district put out a policy a year or two ago about the opportunity for drug sniffing dogs to come into the schools. As a former canine officer, it was the best job I ever had, by the way. You always have your dog with you. You never have a bad day. That dog changes everything as soon as you get in the vehicle. But the objective of having drug sniffing dogs is not to get people in trouble. It's strictly to deter individuals from thinking that school is the appropriate place to bring those items, right? I think everyone can agree drugs have no place inside our schools. And that's definitely an issue that we're dealing with, not only across the region, it's nationwide. Vapes, that's something that the school district is talking about and tackling, and SROs are working to solve that issue as well. And then once Dustin came in, wow, all of a sudden we saw a lot of buy-in from faculty, family, students of, hey, let's pick the low-hanging fruit. Let's just shut the doors and lock them. It's our responsibility in this day and age to really pick that low-hanging fruit. It's such a simple thing. Dustin spoke about it already, but it's something that we should be doing, right? It's our responsibility as faculty. It's our responsibility as parents of children in schools. If you see something that's off or access to the school that is a weak point, we have the relationships within our school districts and with the superintendent that family members can even say something. That's not common across the country. So your kids are really in a fantastic area to get a wonderful education and feel safe and supported. And that brings me to supports, right? The relationships with Aspen Hope, with all these other organizations, the Family Resource Center, Mountain Family Health, right? Our kids are able to go to school and feel comfortable and feel safe, secure, and know that their mental health, their physical wellness is all being taken care of. I think that covered some strengths, growth areas, not gross areas. Growth areas, I would say this is an issue that I don't care how secure the school is and how many doors that we're pushing to have locked, but complacency, right? We live in utopia. Our kids go to school in utopia. So the idea that nothing's going to happen here, that's an idea that we just need to push away from. And so having buy-in from faculty, family, students is crucial, right? Understanding that every time there's a drill, every time we're talking about safety and security of our students and our schools and our faculty, that people are paying attention, that our families are supportive of the school taking these efforts, because it hasn't been the norm. It's becoming the norm. It has become the norm. So complacency is definitely an issue that, although I don't think that it plagues the school district specifically, it's an issue that any school district in this day and age is going to constantly have to think about and battle. And then it's already been touched on, but as we look to the future of school campuses, we need to be honest, and welcoming schools and secure schools are not opposites, right? Safe schools are welcoming schools. That's where our children, our students, our families, our faculty, that's where they belong, knowing that they are in a secure environment to provide an education to our students. I think that's everything without going through the entire list.
I'll talk fast. Again, Aaron Munch with the Basalt Police Department. Thank you again for having us, Dr. Cole. Thank you. We were put in just a real quick story. We were put in an interesting situation here recently. Our staff levels went to bare minimum, and we had to pull Jason from the schools to help cover shifts. And that was the first half of this year. It was a decision we had to make, just operationally, but quickly discovered the mistake we made. And the connections that Jason had formed in the school, and the amount of kids that were constantly approaching me, asking, when is Jason coming back? When is Jason coming back? That proved to me that we made that mistake. So actually what we've done is we're contracting police services in the town with a different agency to actually cover Jason's shifts to get him back into school. So just something that we've decided that it was important, and we wanted to push that. I also want to thank, big thanks to Dustin in his position, what he's done, reiterate what Chief Wilson had said. Dustin has done amazing things for our school system and schools in Basalt. So I truly hope that continues, that relationship. Really appreciate that. Some of the concerns, I don't want to sound like a broken record with what my partners have talked about, but one thing that I am concerned about is open campus. Not only just for the obvious reasons of what kids get into over the lunch hour, but I see it in the driving habits and behaviors. When they leave campus and the majority of students have to drive to lunch or to their house, and they're on this time constraint, they don't drive so well. And usually I go in a little too fast, and I worry some more is going to happen there. More crashes, things of that nature. So that's where I see, that's where my concern lies with the open campus, along with everything else. But that's a big one for me. It was brought up about vapes. I think Jason dealt with 3 vaping incidents today at the middle school. So it's a constant. That is a constant problem. So we're trying to work on that as well. I'm going to kick it back to this slide that I was presented, just to talk about some of the strengths and growths that we could do as a partnership with the school. And I think on the same topic of strength and growth, just one word is communication, both as a strength and a need for growth. I think we do a great job communicating issues, but I also think a lot of things may get missed, and we can also do a better job of strengthening that always. I know in our profession, communication is always the first thing to fail. And every time that does more, it's a trickle effect. So getting ahead of situations where we've dealt with in the past, again, it has become a strength, and has been able to build those partnerships, but also backtracking and trying to figure issues out that we haven't got ahead of. We found that those communication pieces should have been earlier. So things we can always work on, but that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, trying to keep our kids and community safe is a team effort. And you can hear from the partners that we have that we are really trying to center student safety, student well-being, and holding each other accountable for best practices, and sharing hard feedback, and being really open about where we can do better and where we need to do better to make sure our schools are safe places. I know we're close to time, but I know there's going to be some good questions here. So would love to open the floor a little bit. If anybody has burning questions that you would like to ask, if you'd raise your hand, we'd love to get you on the mic, but we have probably time for a couple questions if you've got some.
Yo más que todo estoy agradecida con ellos porque las veces que yo he ido a la escuela siempre veo a Publicidad de Basal y me da gusto porque mi hijo se siente muy cómodo con él. Aún con el jefe de él se siente bien cómoda. Me dice él, cuando yo salgo los veo a ellos y me gusta mucho porque dice él, cuando vamos corriendo, lo que hacen ellos, les encienden las luces para que ellos bajen la velocidad. Y mi hijo me han dicho muchas veces que no tenemos que correr, y eso me gusta, que ellos estén pendientes de ellos porque se preocupan por los alumnos, y me da mucho gusto que ellos hagan un buen trabajo. Gracias.
Thank you. Really grateful for that point, because it goes beyond the school grounds, right? That making sure kids get safe on their way to school, when they leave. It is such an important part of community safety when we think of where our kids are. Thank you for sharing. Other questions or comments? Okay. Well, any other comments from this crew before we close? I think so. Anna, yeah.
Yo tengo una pregunta. Creo que es para, no recuerdo el nombre. Como por ejemplo, si hay un problema de un estudiante, más bien entre estudiantes, que empezó en la escuela, escaló para la casa y después hubo otros involucrados, ¿cuáles como los pasos a seguir para poder solucionar esa situación?
I think so. I think so.
And let me just repeat your question to make sure I understand. The question was, what if there's an incident that happens outside of school that ends up coming into school?
más involucradas.
Okay. So that's a very good question, and it's a tricky question, but it's something that we do grapple with pretty often. And the judgment that I like to give principals is, does the incident that happens off campus affect school? Does it cause a disruption in school? Does it affect students' ability to learn in school? The example that I always give, so sorry. The example that I always give, this way? Oh, I know. I know. I'm sorry. Kelly always gives me really good in the moment feedback. I appreciate you, Kelly. The example I always give is this. If the student stole a candy bar at 7-Eleven, that is not the school's business. We're not going to discipline a student or address a student for that incident that happened off campus. But if a student got, say, into a fight off campus and then on campus, it became a very big deal and it spread to more children and more people are angry at each other and we just can't have math class because everyone in class is talking about this fight, then that could become an issue that we want to address at school as well. Does that make sense? So it all has to do with this incident, is there an effect on our ability for students to learn and for teachers to teach in school? That's where the line is between where the school steps into an off-campus incident. But that part is tricky, and there's a lot of gray area in between those examples I gave, and generally we talk it out and we decide where it lies on that spectrum. Is there anything that y'all would add to that? Does that sound about right to you? Perfect.
Por lo que entendí, parece que está diciendo que cuando los involucrados son estudiantes, ¿verdad? Y me gustaría como aclarar un poquito más que los involucrados no son estudiantes. Cuando no son estudiantes los involucrados. Dos estudiantes tuvieron problemas, escaló el problema y los involucrados, personas más involucradas, que entraron a esa discusión no son estudiantes. ¿Cuáles son los pasos a seguir? Perdón.
I think so, but I'm not 100% that I understand the situation.
Let me try that.
You got it?
Yeah, okay. I think, Anna, this is when we need law enforcement. This is when the partnerships with law enforcement really make a difference. Because if we have students, people from outside the school, and there's laws that are being broken or there's harm being done that involves our students, but it's happening with people outside the school, that is when we bring in law enforcement. Because we're saying sometimes this is having an impact in our school, but people who are doing it are outside. And so I would say the first steps are trusted adults in the building. And that could be a school resource officer. It might be law enforcement. It might be the school leaders. It might be the family resource center, because we'll connect. And once we've had these incidents and we've worked them together where we have situations where people not in the schools, but our kids are tangled up in them. And so that's when we partner together. And that's when we really need those communication channels to work well. And it happens often. Our communities are small. Our kids are impacted by things happening outside. And I would say there's no wrong door for a first step. Like if something's going on, as you heard law enforcement talk about, like a safe to tell anonymous report goes to all of us. So we all get that. The schools get it, law enforcement gets it, and then we figure out who's going to tackle this situation. But I would say there's no wrong door for reporting that, whether you go to law enforcement and say there's kids in schools involved, or whether you come to the schools and say there's people outside the school who are involved. We'll work it together. Does that help?
The only thing that I would add, and it's an excellent answer, the only thing I would add is that as school officials, really the jurisdiction that we have or the control we have is over students and over what goes on in our building. And so the key is that partnership and that communication that we keep hearing about, that the officers and law enforcement know that they have partnership with us, and we feel also that we have partnership with them.
Okay, the last thing I'll say is that we all have the gift and we all work really, really hard to live in our small towns. And there are things that drive us crazy about small towns, but the best gift is that we're all in this together. And so if you didn't get to ask questions, come find, like, hopefully you're going to see us all at the grocery store. You're going to see us at the soccer field and the basketball games. We are a small community. Most of us don't have like banks of administrative assistants. Reach out to us, reach out to our law enforcement partners, our school district staff. If you have questions, we'll find the right people. We are small. That's our gift for being in small towns. So don't be a stranger, ask questions. We'll stick around a bit, but are so grateful for everybody's time, so grateful for our partners, and the work everybody's doing. Thank you.